Hi, this is Jordan.
And I'm Bryan, and you're listening to The Quality Varies.
I apologize in advance if I sound a little bit echoey today. I am recording from a new location, and this desk is the only thing in the room. It is
Very nice.
You can see in the camera, but this wall is indicative of the entire room. It's empty.
It's a void.
It is a void. I have some sound panels coming in tomorrow, but
Wow.
we're recording tonight.
Fancy.
So, yeah, sound panels and a lot of posters and maybe a little rug, and then hopefully everything will be right in the world again.
Holy cow.
How are you, Bryan?
Dandy. How, did I already ask how you are?
You asked me, the recording wasn't on yet, so does that count?
Nope.
If you ask how I
Jordan?
am and nobody's here to listen, am I okay?
That's a great question. We should talk about that in depth someday.
I'll add it to the show notes. I'm great. I mentioned a little bit in the previous recording, but I have moved. I am in an even colder area in the world. That's not what we're discussing today, so we'll leave that for another recording. It's finally getting a little bit cold, and so I walked outside today, and I was like, oof. And I walked back inside. It wasn't about it. So, but, I'm excited for our recording today.
Yes, I am very excited. We're talking about Critical Role, which to all of the fan out there that also listens to Critical Role, we are missing the newest episode right now. It's on right now because we're recording this episode.
I'd like to say the word dedication.
I hear you as you say dedication. I would like to expound on that Neanderthalic thought and say that we are dedicated to this podcast.
Wow, that was a lot. Yeah, we're disclaimer to everybody, have serious doubts on the enjoyability of listening to this episode if you do not enjoy both D&D and Critical Role, and you have not consumed their 800 some odd hours of content.
Oh, it's
so
more
far.
than that. It's got to be more than that.
Well, just
It's gotta
season
be
2
like...
and 3. Technically, we're not talking about season 1.
Okay. You got me there.
So just a disclaimer on that. I don't want you to get an hour in and be like, oh, this is all they're talking about.
Come
because
on.
This is literally all they're talking about.
You think they'd get an hour in?
I think I told you at rehab that before I watched The Hobbit, I watched a 4-hour documentary on The Hobbit.
You did tell me that.
So you never know, man. If they would have put a disclaimer in the beginning of that documentary, maybe I wouldn't have watched it.
Well, great. We just shot ourselves in the foot for all those listens we could have had, all those downloads.
Yes. It definitely will have a severe impact on our downloads.
Yeah. Do you know what statistical significance is?
I've looked at
Another
just
time.
you saying that.
Another time.
You saying that just gave me a headache. I've looked at too many numbers today. What we've talked about Critical Role already in the past. What are we talking about today?
Well, Campaign 2.
Mm-hmm.
Campaign 3 just started over 5 weeks ago, I believe, because this is episode 5 that we're missing right now. So you know this, Jordan, but before Campaign 3 started, I was rushing to finish Campaign 2 by any means necessary. And so I was watching like recap videos on YouTube that would condense between 2 and 4 hours of content into like a 3 to 6 minute little video bite. And then they stopped making those. And so I just was reading episode summaries online. And so I maybe got like 5% of all of the content that was there for the last like 2/3 of the whole campaign. But very proud of myself because I caught up by the skin of my teeth before Campaign 3 started.
Yeah.
In fact, I was like listening to the last like 12 minutes of the very last episode of Campaign 2 at 1.5 speed as the first episode of Campaign 3 was like starting, and I finished it in just enough time right after all the ad reads and their like catch up announcements and stuff. So I like logged on, started watching right as they started playing, like right as Matt started introducing the world and everything. So that was cool.
I do remember. I didn't know that you had to have it at 1.5 speed as well. But I do remember you hopping on. We had a spoilers chat going on in the Discord
Mm-hmm.
with the D&D group, and right when the actual game was starting, I remember you hopping on like, "Guys, I've done it. I'm here."
I did it.
So yeah, impressive timing indeed. You still pseudo consumed the content.
Mm-hmm.
Do you? I mean, my first question to you: do you have any intention, just over time, to go back to any of those episodes? Just like what's it called? Measerly, leisurely,
Leisurely?
leisurely. I'm gonna cut that out.
Wow. No, you have to leave it in.
To lead. I don't know what I was going for.
What the heck? Like meander?
Maybe half. Yeah, that's the
Meander
word I
on
was thinking
back?
of too. I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe halfway through the episode, I'll figure out what I was trying to do. But do you have any intention of just going back on your own time and just slowly doing those episodes that you didn't ever watch?
An intention is a strong word, but yes, I have thought about going back, maybe like years in the future after they all, I don't know, after the band breaks up and they stop doing more. Maybe I have thought about going back and just listening to campaign 2 just all the way through again, because the parts that I did listen to were really really good, and the characters, even though I didn't love all of them,
Yeah.
I definitely appreciated and acknowledged all of like the writing and the thought that went into their development. And I mean, one character in particular I just loathed so much. We can talk about this later, but I just hated this one character every time
No,
I.
don't dive. No, dive into it. Well, I want to know. You
Right
can't
now,
just keep me
okay.
hanging.
I hated Bo
Oh my
Beauregard,
goodness.
and I'll tell you why. There were several times that she would say some like punk ass comment, and I just heard it in my voice from high school, because she was exactly like I was in high school, and it just infuriated me because it just brought all that back for me. Awesome, like in a like outside of a like a TV show or a movie character, like outside of the character, the D&D build was actually really cool.
Yeah.
She was a monk. I think monks are cool. And in combat, she was like awesome. But man, did I hate listening to her talk.
So I mean, somewhat similar to Keyleth. I mean, she was going for a certain type of personality. Do you
Mhm.
feel like, from what you did watch, do you feel like she did it well as far as what she
Oh,
intended?
absolutely yes. Yeah,
Okay.
no,
Okay.
Marisha is amazingly talented at
Yeah.
playing the character and playing the role. Absolutely, like props to her in every way for playing that character. And like I wouldn't even feel like that ashamed or embarrassed to tell her exactly how I felt about Bo, because like at the end of the day, I related to Bo, and I think Marisha would even appreciate that. She would appreciate the reason why I felt so strongly about Bo.
I think it's almost a compliment that
Hmm.
you didn't like it because you resonated with it so much.
Yeah, yeah, and in a way, it is a compliment to Marisha and Bo that the character was so real that I did relate to it a lot. I probably related to Bo more than any other character.
Fascinating.
But yeah.
So your so your least favorite character was Bo. Is
Hmm.
that what?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
That's funny. So what was the? I mean, on the other side of it, what was the most? What was your favorite character from what you kind of watched and what you were able to kind of see in the development from the recaps?
Well, it was obviously Ford. I don't think anybody's surprised by that, but it was
The
obviously Ford.
Fjord. What I mean,
Ford was Travis's character, and I mean, enough said, right?
So your favorite? I mean, my one of my future questions was going to be your favorite player. So
Hmm.
does Ford and Travis go hand in hand?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. For different reasons. I liked Ford. I loved his Texan accent. It was awesome. And later on, he like switches to a British accent, which I only
Yeah.
caught a little bit of. I stopped listening before that happened in the story,
Yeah.
but obviously I listened to like the last episode, and so I got a little bit of it. But I really liked Ford's development, his character development, in that he started out as a warlock, which is not necessarily like an evil tilted class, but
Mm-hmm.
it certainly is easy to lean that way because like they get their magic from questionable sources. And so his Ford's whole development arc was about exploring his powers and where they came from and how far he could grow with those powers and how much he could train those powers without like succumbing to the dark entity that he was drawing them from. And then I think around the time he stopped the Texan accent and moved into the British accent was about the time he started like following one of the gods in D&D, and he actually became a
Yeah.
paladin for one of the other characters' god, I believe. And so it became this
Yep.
really like
No,
really
you're
really
right.
powerful warlock paladin, which is like when you think about power builds, hexblade warlock and a paladin is like always up there in as far as like raw damage output. So
Okay.
that was just fun, just knowing
Yeah.
that he was going along that route.
Yeah. So just for the audience, I want to quickly, for no particular reason, because people that have watched it are watching or listening to this, and people that haven't watched it probably aren't listening to this. But I wanted to go through the quick cast and kind of the characters that they're playing
Mm.
to reference kind of when we're talking about it throughout the show. But in season two, oh, actually, one second, I had season three pulled up
Campaign
too.
2. So you had Travis playing Ford, Travis Willingham playing Ford Tough. I don't remember his last name. I don't remember his
Say
last name, but Sam would always make. He would always
Sam
like,
Riegel,
yeah, Sam Riegel, who played Not, and then Veth.
Veth Bernardo.
Yeah, he would always make jokes about Ford's last name being like Ford Models, Ford Focus, or Ford Explorer, or just whatever. It was funny.
Yeah, Sam is a genius at
He's
just inserting stuff
mm-hmm.
into probably too serious of moments and just
It's
making them
just
not that way.
yeah. When we talk about campaign 3, there's a couple of just winners from
Yeah,
Sam.
yeah. So we got Travis playing Ford. Sam plays Veth, who I think Veth was like a rogue.
Mm-hmm. Started out
Um,
as a goblin and then
yeah,
got transmogrified into a halfling.
yeah. Halfling, then Goblin, then Halfling again.
Yes. Yep.
Marisha Ray played Beauregard Lionette, which is I think just a human. What are they called? Human monk.
Mm-hmm. And
And then
her
Liam,
subclass was a special,
a
like
homebrew
a
one.
homebrew.
Yeah,
Yeah, Matt wrote it specifically for Marisha.
and you can find it in D&D Beyond now. They've added it in.
Mm-hmm.
So Liam O'Brien played Caleb Widowgast, who was a wizard. Ashley Johnson played a dope character.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, my favorite character. Yasha, and I don't know how to say this last name. Not Nidroin.
Close enough. I never heard it
Uh,
spoken, so I don't know.
I've never heard it spoken.
Oh, okay.
I didn't recognize this. Taliesin Jaffe played Molly Mock first. Spoiler alert. He died.
He
So
did.
then after Molly Mock, he played Caduceus Clay, and
Caduceus was my runner-up for favorite character.
was he?
Yeah.
I guess Molly Mock still counts because since we're just throwing spoilers, this way and that. Molly Mauk comes back at the very end.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was
uh,
such a cool thing that Matt did.
I thought it
I
was
thought it
pretty
was
neat.
awesome.
And then last but not least, Laura Bailey played Jester,
Mm.
who, like, oh man, I don't know. Now that I'm looking at Jester, Jester was a pretty
She was,
freaking cool character.
yeah, she had some winners.
Yeah.
Just some of the best moments. So good.
Oh, I loved it. So, and there were a ton of. I'm just kind of looking at. They had a ton of guests. They stopped doing guests and then obviously after COVID started. So the list probably would have been twice as long or three times as long if they were able to have guests all the way through.
Hmm.
They had a lot of cool guests throughout the time. The only one that I will mention is I think Chris Perkins
Yeah, I
came in.
remember that, dude. Oh.
Do you wanna talk about that one? I'm gonna forget if I don't mention it right now.
Oh,
Do you wanna bring that up?
Yeah, what even happened? They were underground for something. I can't remember what. They were underground. They found some lava fields or something, like a lava pit underground.
Yeah, I think they were trying to get somewhere discreetly. Again, it's been I don't remember all the details,
Hmm.
but they found this goblin and Chris Perkins, who is heavily involved with all things published D&D work
Yeah.
and otherwise. Like
hang on,
he's
yeah.
he's just a huge presence in the community. Um, and he played, I think, a goblin, or I think a goblin. That was his name was Spurt.
Yeah, yeah. So quickly, Chris Perkins is a game designer and editor who works for Wizards of the Coast. Like Chris Perkins, Jeremy Crawford, and like maybe one other name is like the top three dudes at Wizards of the Coast, at least for Dungeons and Dragons. Like a
Yeah,
big name in D&D.
yeah.
But
And
anyway, he played Spurt.
played Spurt. They were in the tunnels, and probably it was obviously unexpected, but I think even more so just because it was by this time Critical Role is more of a production. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of value going into this.
Yeah.
There's a bit more of there's a couple more layers in between the audience and just this game of D&D.
Hmm.
And the thing that's so surprising is basically Chris comes on. Chris is this huge name. It's so cool to kind of see him on the show. Chris is on the show for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
because he plays this goblin, and the goblin just has this super funny personality, and they come up against an enemy, and the enemy hits Spurt with a single attack, and Spurt just dies.
Like instantly just is like deleted, just gone.
But I think Chris said Chris understood because he knows everything about D&D,
Yeah.
and Matt was like giving him the wide eyes when he said like the monster attacks him with this big club or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
Chris just looks to the rest of the group and he's like, I think he says like I win in this like super high pitched voice.
Uh-huh.
He's like, I win,
Yeah.
and then he just gets splattered.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think they
and
even
then
said that, like, oh, Spurt went splat or something. Because
yeah,
it was like, after Matt described it, it was like he pulls up the hammer or the mace or whatever, and like there's just like bits of like like goblin goo just like dripping off of it after he picked it up.
yeah, and Chris just that happens, and Chris is like, "Well, bye guys." And after like maybe 5 minutes of being in front of the camera, he just grabs his stuff and
It
leaves.
just like leaves the table.
Yeah, and I absolutely let the cast is so just like wide eyed, like what the heck just
Yeah,
happened,
just shocked.
and they're like embarrassed. They're like they felt bad. They're like, Chris, you came here
Hmm.
for that, like you. But I think Chris just like I don't know. I picture it kind of in a weird like similarity to once you play D&D for a while, you start to get enjoyment more out of the failures than you do the successes.
Yeah.
So I think Chris has just been playing D&D so long that he just found such hilarity from him just going on for only a couple minutes and then dying horrifically. And so I thought it was great.
Yeah. It was definitely hilarious.
Yeah. It was an amazing moment.
Mhm.
So I talked about My favorite character, I said Yasha. Oof, man, it's probably a tie between Yasha and Jester
Really?
because Jester was just top notch.
Yeah, definitely.
My favorite player still stays consistent. It is still Sam for campaign 2.
Yeah.
It's too good. I mean, there was a special combination with Sam playing a bard in the first campaign
Yeah, definitely.
that I think is always just going to live in history.
Oh yeah.
His skill as a person, being able to lend himself to the wittiness of being a bard. So I'll always be jealous of that. And if the first quarter of campaign 1, if their audio wasn't so bad, I would probably rewatch campaign 1 very frequently.
Yeah.
But they were still figuring out how to be public streamers for many episodes in campaign 1. So
Yeah.
so my favorite player, my favorite character. And
Why?
man,
What was so good about Yasha?
Yasha just so Ashley was still figuring out Ashley was still gone for large swaths of season 2 because her other acting gigs were pulling her away.
Yeah.
And they were in the Critical Role was on the West Coast, and she was doing her work on the East Coast for so long.
Yeah.
But the times that she was there, it was just such a I don't know, the whole thing about Yasha was just like a quiet strength, which I always just found just very intriguing, like this whole quiet demeanor, but almost like it's quiet, like she's quiet because of I don't know, randomly very sappy, but she's quiet because of traumatic experiences and forced shame in the past that she keeps with her, and that's her. So she's kind of stuck in her own head a lot. But the rare times that I don't know, half the time, the rare times that she's distracted enough, not focused on that, the power that Yasha showed was just sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought it was a really cool thing to just kind of watch that happen, or her interactions that she would have that she could just wreck people. And it was really her mental battles were probably worse than or as bad as any actual physical battles that she got into.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, so Yasha, definitely a cool one. But
Yeah.
I mean, Jester, freaking hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know who was funnier, Jester or Veth. Not.
Yeah, Veth was bomb.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I don't know if it was so much Veth or if it was just Sam throwing in his just comedic genius at every moment. But
did you
she was great.
Did you watch any of the episodes where Sam would send messages to anybody else in the party?
Oh yeah, and he'd always end with, "You can reply to this message."
You can reply to this message.
It was so good.
I had to mention that. I loved it.
Oh, and then when Jester would send the bigger version of that, across the world, there's a very specific word limit on that spell, and Matt and Travis would count, and they would cut her off, and so she'd be in the middle of this big long flowery description of what she was doing, run out of words, and so I just cast it again, and she just go through all of her spells, just trying to talk to some person on the other side of the world.
Yeah,
that was another just good character stuff right there.
Well, because she totally stepped into it.
Absolutely.
Because the first time or two, I think she legitimately she got carried away.
Yeah,
and they cut her off.
Absolutely, she did. Yeah,
and then yeah, she just kind of let herself keep doing it. And I thought it was really neat, and so those two things I put just as random kind of moments throughout the show that just kept coming up.
Yes.
And every time you knew oh, Jester's about to send another message.
Yeah.
This is gonna be good. I'll pause my game or whatever, and I'll just kind of watch it for a quick bit.
Yeah.
Because everybody was just riveted on her, and then she would get stressed more because everybody's watching her.
Yeah.
So what from what you watched or what you listened to, did you have a favorite fun moment in the series like comedic moment. And I can start with mine to
Yeah,
give you
you
a little bit more
start.
time if you'd like.
You start, and I'll
Okay.
think about it a little more.
It's hard to think of like a top. And again, if I had just watched the entire series, taking notes yesterday, I probably would have something different. Fun moment and the serious moment, I think, are within an episode of each other. Around episode 93. Now, I remember. I don't know if you had remembered or if you had gotten a chance to do it, but I specifically directed you to watch episode 93 or whatever episode it was in that range. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get a chance to do it?
No, I didn't.
Ah,
At that point, when I was at that point, I was like, I have to
you were at
read like
the
5
yeah,
episodes a day just to
yeah.
like keep up and be ahead of Campaign Three's release. So I didn't
Well,
watch it.
obviously, yeah. Obviously, you were down to the wire anyways, as it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
So from your recaps that you watched or that you read, around that time is when the party is at the party on the
Mm-hmm.
island
Mm-hmm.
of the
Yeah.
Traveler Con
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever it's called, and Jester is finally getting to like see the Traveler again and see all the other followers, and she thinks it's going to be this like grand thing, and then the Traveler reveals like I don't have any freaking clue what I'm doing. Please help.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gets kind of thrown in both to the situation and also to kind of the true nature of her god.
Mm-hmm.
So favorite serious moment, episode I think 93, the reveal, one of the women on the island being Keyleth's mother.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
dude. Yes. Holy cow. Talk about delayed gratification on that one.
I know, and if you haven't watched, have you not you haven't
No.
seen that
No.
scene, right?
No, I remember I believe I had like marked a mental note to go back and watch that because like even the second hand writing of what happened there was like so poignant and emotional. It was Danny Carr summarizing and like paraphrasing everything Matt said. But man, I could just see in my mind's eye like Matt's probably crying, Marisha's probably crying, everybody's probably crying right now, and I'm just reading this on a stupid little blog post.
So this is we haven't done something like this before, but I actually think it's worth it for if I send you the thing for you to watch the scene real quick,
We're gonna
and we can come back.
We're gonna live watch react to this.
Not live watch it, but I think you should. I think you should watch it, and then we can come back after you've watched it, and talk about it because I think this scene is just so epic. Let me. I just posted in the general thing. I posted a link. It's a couple minutes. It's a couple minutes long,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I think you should go watch it, and I think we should just so you can kind of have that, and we can talk about it for a second. Okay,
Whoa.
you just watched it. What do you think?
I mean, I already knew, but wow, dude.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
holy cow. I'm still just like reeling about how long he was sitting on that. Like that is just like it's just mind-boggling. Like I can't think of any other story that had like a long like reveal like planned that far in ahead, and it was like obviously planned that far in ahead. That is just mind-boggling.
So I enjoy being a player in D&D,
Mm-hmm.
but my passion is really being the DM.
Oh, good, because I'm
Um,
about ready to turn that back over to you.
we could, but I just wanted to say that in general because I dream about setups like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that
Oh
is the
my gosh.
cornucopia of, or just the apex of storytelling in
Yeah.
games like these.
Absolutely.
And every time I watch it, I am both. I feel so many. I'm inspired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm terrified. Like it's overwhelming. Like it. The reactions. I love seeing. I'm a person that I just enjoy. I enjoy watching react videos.
Mm.
I enjoy, and so I'll replay videos like that over and over again, just to like those Critical Role videos. This is weird for me to say, but I will replay it 9 times to just focus in on each of Matt and each of the players
Mm-hmm.
and exactly what their reaction was.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I enjoy watching it,
Wow.
and moments like that was just a crazy. It was a crazy moment.
Yeah, that is like there's nothing else that could have elicited that kind of reaction out of a group of people. No movie could ever replicate that. No video game or book could ever replicate anything close to that.
I mean,
To
people have
that.
done an awesome job, but
Sure.
like
No. Yeah. No. I'm not. Yeah.
Travis's involuntary like yell,
Yeah. Yeah. That part was amazing. Just,
like
oh, F.
yeah,
Yeah, that
um,
was it was so like that. It was so evoked. It was not voluntary, obviously. It was very much like raw reaction. Like somebody hitting your knee with a hammer. Like it was like a reflex, like an emotional reflex to react like that.
yeah. Well, and it's satisfying that like all of a
Mhm.
sudden like they spent the next several minutes like connecting all the dots,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's just satisfying to put all the blocks together. Like it just
Mhm. Mhm.
so yeah, especially from my perspective, where like that's what I strive for,
Mhm.
and I find that to be like the Mount Olympus of like what somebody could ever do in a
Mhm.
game like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm glad you took the time to watch that. So that was my favorite serious moment, and
Yeah.
I think it definitely earned its place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm glad. I hadn't watched this one before, where they actually just somebody in YouTube had gone in and edited it all together from the first time Sam
Mhm.
saw the message in the chat,
Yeah.
all the way up to when the discovery was made. So I
Mhm.
appreciated watching that. That was fun to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And I like all the zoom in. Like most of it
yeah,
was just zoomed in on Sam as he was like, you could see the wheels turning in his head. Like, oh yeah, like he was connecting the dots before the episode ended. Like, oh yeah, like I
yeah,
get it. Like that all checks out. And then Liam kind of got in on it too.
yeah. I am really glad that Marisha did not see the message.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, I feel like that would have ruined it a little bit,
Mhm. Yeah.
if she had seen it. But then on the other hand, like in general, when when would it have been? Because here Matt already gave like the my mind sees what Matt did, and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, it's already too late. Because if I was Matt, then I would have given the physical description, and if they didn't understand it, like if they didn't make the connection when I gave the description of the leg, then I would be like, okay.
Yeah.
And then because that's happened before, where I've said something that I think like, oh, that's gonna set off like, oh, they'll make this connection, and people don't, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so it's like maybe she teleports and the party just sees Keyleth on the other side of the portal.
Uh
Like,
huh.
when do they make this
Yeah,
discovery?
that was the part that I really wanted to go back and watch because they do get to see that, and
Yeah,
Matt describes like this red-haired woman with like the antler things, and she just like covers her mouth and just like
yeah,
like starts hunching over and like starts sobbing like as the mom walks through the portal or whatever. But like, man, talk about some like transcendent storytelling there.
that's a good word for it.
Just I can't think of anything that compares to that.
I said the words, and I'm even just this like watching it again. I'm feeling it again of both inspired and terrified.
Yeah.
Like it's just oh man, watching it happen. I'm like, oh my goodness, Matt, you son of a gun.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so so that's my favorite serious moment. My fun moment I said was right around the same. That they're on this island still. They're doing their thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they're at the top of a volcano. And again, I don't remember all the details, but I think they were making offerings or something.
Yeah.
And this woman on the island, nobody in the party liked, especially Jester.
Mm-hmm.
And so Veth or not the Brave,
Mm-hmm.
who was that was the name of Sam's character as the Goblin. That was the name he had given himself.
Mm-hmm.
Veth was the name of the halfling. Um, Uses the magical glue, and he magically glues a penis
Oh
onto
yeah.
this. Yeah,
And it's like magical ultra glue that like never
yeah.
that never like fades.
Basically,
So,
only a wish spell can get it away,
oh
and
wow.
for the normal person, nobody, almost nobody, like no commoner is ever gonna find themselves in a situation where they can use a wish spell. That's like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
And so effectively, he has just bound this woman in her hand to just this golden penis. uh, and she doesn't, I think she starts to realize it as they're going up the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And she's embarrassed, and she doesn't want to, like, everybody's going and giving their offering, and she doesn't want to do it because she can't get this penis off her hand. And she goes up and she tries to throw it in the mountain, and she can't. And everybody's just watching her try to throw it into the mountain. And yeah, she just I want to say that Matt makes some comment about it towards the end of the game, as far as like, where is she at now? But I can't remember. That may have just been a desire of the community to get an update.
Yeah. I can't remember.
But so that was my favorite fun moment, because it was just this drawn out, because they had to travel up to the mountain,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and the woman was just slowly understanding what was happening. So all kind of around that same time, that whole thing on the island was just ridiculous
Yeah.
and
it really
amazing.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you gotten a chance to kind of think of brainstorm some stuff over on your end?
Yeah. The funnest or funniest moment. It's I can't really. There wasn't one that just like absolutely knocked me off my rocker laughing. But every time Jester and Knot would get into mischief, or they'd always have some shenanigan that they were pulling and like working on. Like that was it was always so funny because it never worked. The one example that I thought of was very, very early on. I think it was the first like big city that they got to. Jester was trying to please the Traveler, her deity that she worshipped, that turned out to not be a deity, like you mentioned. And like their thing was chaos, like the trickery domain cleric. She was just constantly pulling pranks with Knot and doing shenanigans and just being not destructive, but really just a nuisance as much as she could. And so she would like draw wieners on everything and just like she'd leave graffiti everywhere, or like she'd tell like innocent people to go to brothels, or just like all kinds of things just to mess with people, not to really hurt or cause any harm.
Yeah.
But she was trying to get some brownie points with the Traveler, and so she goes to this really big cathedral or like temple or something of some god. I don't know. I want to say Bahamut because that's the one that I know.
I think it was the I was reading recaps of like people's favorite moments today, and
Hmm.
I think it may have been a Temple of Bahamut.
Yeah. And she was like, she climbed up on this big, huge statue, and she was like, I don't know, she was like drawing wieners on it or something, or she left a message to like, stop following Bahamut, go follow the Traveler, he's way better. And she gets caught by these like, by a bunch of like really old, like I remember them being described as like really old Catholic priests looking guys. And
Yeah,
she like, so she's like trying to get out of there. She tries to talk her way out and fails. And the oldest priest is like, no, no, come here. You're coming with me. And
yeah,
like, and so like they sick the guards on her, and so she like tries to teleport away. And she like tries to run down the hall, but she runs the wrong way or something and gets
yeah,
trapped. And so she like, and like I think Not is there also trying to do something like, and they end up like using like all of their resources available to them, like an entire adventuring day worth of like spells and like little tricks they can do. Just they blew through everything just to get away, and like it was by the skin of their teeth that they didn't get arrested. But that was just
yeah.
like a really long, drawn out anti heist to just like get out of there and get out of trouble. I remember really
The
enjoying that.
anti-heist. That's a good word for it.
Yeah,
It
but
kind
just
of
like
reminds me
Jester and
of.
Not, they were just hilarious.
It kind of reminds me of Sam. What was his character's name in season one?
Scanlan.
Scanlan.
Hmm.
Scanlan when he's in Whitestone
Hmm.
in that house where he turns into a dinosaur.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was a good one.
Like that's just reminded me of like that, just like that long drawn out just escapade.
Yeah,
But yeah, the temple was absolutely amazing.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and so that's a good one. I
Hmm.
like it. What was a? Did you have a serious one in mind?
Um, well, I liked all of Ford's backstory and like
Yeah.
finding out his patron was like this big sea monster thing. I really loved, but I think I remember like watching the recap videos, and then I think I read a little bit of the like that horror dungeon that they went in where they were fighting like the cult of the chained one or something.
Mm.
There was a lot of like mind control, like thrall type, and it kind of came into play in like the end game of the story a little bit, I think, as they were like fostering peace between the empire and the dynasty,
Oh, okay.
the two nations that were at war the whole campaign, that they were kind
Yeah.
of going back and forth between the 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 whole like the imagery of that dungeon. I remember was like very dark, dark Catholic. There was like a lot of like like statues of angels and stuff,
Uh
and
huh.
like really like grotesque monsters and stuff, and it was like really dark and creepy. I remember even like I didn't even like watch the whole episode or anything, but I remember thinking like, oh man, that sounds like a really creepy dungeon that they're in. And like at the end, like kind of the boss fight of that was they were actually fighting against Yasha. She was
Oh, that's
under she
right.
was under the control of this like this deity or this like pseudo deity that the cult was following. She was under the control of this thing, and her race was like this fallen angel. And so like the imagery that Matt used was like, here's your supposedly your friend, and she just looks like gothic as heck, and her wings look like just nasty. Like there's chains everywhere, and it's just like creepy and skeletons and just like horrifying. And then they, I forget how they knock some sense into her or something, and then she like turns coat on the bad guys and just wrecks and just
Yeah.
freaking annihilates the bad guys. And I thought that was like a really cool a really cool way to bring Ashley back into the campaign full time and bring Yasha back into the party full time. And
Certainly in like this epic proportions.
yeah, just I mean, that's how they do things, man. It's just everything's epic.
Yeah.
But I think that was my favorite. And Molly Mock's death, actually. Molly Mock's death was actually another favorite moment of mine.
It was a cool moment. It was a moment that kept on giving because
Yeah.
they were, that was 26 episodes in, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that is 6-7 months in
Yeah.
to the campaign. And
Yeah.
so that's like that they've already spent a huge amount of time with this character.
Yeah. Out of game.
And
In
yeah,
game,
out of game.
It was only like 2 months or something, like a month
Yeah.
or something in game, but
yeah.
yeah.
But throughout the rest of the campaign, like continuing to return to like that scene. I felt bad for, what was her, Ashley Birch, was that her name? The guest that was there at the time of the, hang on, I still have it pulled up here. Yeah, Ashley Birch, Keg. She was
Yes.
she was a guest that was on the show.
Yes.
The episode that Molly Mock died.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And she was like, she was part of that. Yeah, I remember now. I loved
Yeah.
her, actually. I thought
She was amazing.
a fantastic player.
I felt bad for her because
Yeah.
kind of similar to, like, there are some crazy people in the world, and she got a crazy amount of random harassment from not possibly mentally stable people about like that were just blaming her. Very
In real life,
seriously
you're
for, like,
saying?
yeah. It was strange.
Yeah, some people suck.
And yeah, it didn't help that Ashley's husband, what's his name?
Bryan Foster.
Bryan W. Foster. Bryan Foster. Every time he would talk to her, like he would just bring up like, so how's that going? Like, how does it feel killing Molly Mock single-handed? And you could just see the pain in her eyes. She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's great. I love it." But that was a good one, and obviously with the whole Molly Mock coming back, like that moment stayed with the group the entirety of the campaign moving forward. So I loved it. I wanted to mention if there's any any moments that you had that you wanted to bring up just before we go on to season 3. The couple that I had written down, again with Yasha, there's a scene, I am assuming that it's around the part that you were just watching, you were reading recap videos or recaps in general, but at one point Caleb decides or comes to the conclusion that he needs a shave. And the only blade the only blade they have is Yasha's greatsword.
Yeah.
And so Yasha's just kneeling over him, just two-handing the blade of a greatsword. Which the imagery of that is,
And
like
you gotta like describe Yasha a little more. Like if you like, I don't listen to this band, but they kept referencing this band called Gwar, and it's like
I haven't, no.
and it's like a Swedish like black metal band. Like think of like the most gothic thing you could think of, and then multiply that by 100.
Yeah,
Just like the most terrifying real life thing you could imagine. And she's just like, like just kneeling on top of him with a two-handed greatsword, just like shaving his face
at his neck. The nature of it is there's a two-handed greatsword at his neck.
And Liam was a freaking champion playing into it too, and he's like, just
He
like,
was.
I fully accept what happens. I accept the consequences of my action.
Yeah, and the nature of it. Sorry, out of recording, I'm really sad because I don't know what the background noise is, but I'm looking at my recording and I'm seeing background noise all over the place, and I'm just sad for the foreseeable post edit.
Dang it.
Just like she could just let go of the greatsword, and even that would just be terrible.
Yeah.
And he plays because his character is like this very like emotionally defeated character, and so
Yeah,
it was just these two.
none of them were really like happy people except Jester.
Yeah,
All of them were
Caduceus.
like really messed up, which was like
Yeah,
it was awesome to see how all of the like I said before, like they were all just super well written, and like there was a lot of thought that went into them, and every single one of them had like really like real feeling trauma in their backstory. Um,
yeah.
like
There's
it's
a
hard to say whose is the most effed up because like there was a lot of them that was just super jacked up.
Yeah, and like Caleb's backstory was a slow burn.
Mm-hmm.
Like as
Mm-hmm.
you learn more and more of it,
Mm-hmm.
eventually like his didn't really conclude until the very end as well because
Right.
he had like he and Matt prepped the because Caleb wanted to literally go back in time
Mm-hmm.
to fix his mistake,
Yeah.
and he had planned out like in writing as a player
Mm-hmm.
what he was going to do, and Matt had prepped for that to happen, and Caleb didn't let that go until literally the end of the campaign,
Yeah. Yeah.
when he allowed the knowledge to be burned. Bo's stuff was a really
Mm-hmm.
slow burn.
Yeah.
Um, did you get to watch when Jester, the reveal of the gentleman being Jester's dad?
Yes, I was listening at that point. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that was just another good one for the
yeah.
same reason.
Yeah, yeah. Like she had been
Um,
working so close to this person that she had been looking for so long. Just
yeah, and that
so
was
good.
one that Matt really got to like. None of the players had seen it. Matt just got to reveal that one himself.
Mm-hmm.
He got to
Mm-hmm.
have full control over that one,
Yeah,
and
that
so
was
that was
cool.
just really cool.
Mm-hmm.
The just have to mention it, Pumat Soul,
Ah,
amazing.
yes. Yeah, I was gonna bring up Pumat Soul. Like, such a good character, man. Him and Caduceus were so good.
Yeah,
I
the two of them just
Yeah,
so good.
yeah. Speaking of Caduceus, I can't. I was trying to look up the actual line that I'm thinking of, but like another hilarious moment was somebody asked a question to the group. An NPC asked a question to the group, like an open-ended, but like,
Yeah.
but like pointed question, and it was like a serious moment. I was like, "What do you guys like? How can you guys do this? Or like, what makes you think that this is okay? This thing that you've done?" And like, there's like a short pause, and I think like Bo and maybe Ford like start to defend themselves a little bit, and then like after they're done defending themselves, Caduceus is like, well, I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, just like so long after the whole thing, and it just killed me. And I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it was like a kind of a serious moment. And then Caduceus was just like, well, I mean, it wasn't like, I mean, you just like do it or
Just
something.
the delayed
Like,
response.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was so good. It was hilarious. It just really showed. It really showed like Talison's different style of comedy, but just as
Talison's
good.
role playing and comedy is like different and so like
Hmm.
deep.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Like I think that Taliesin writes the best characters. Percy, Mollymauk, and Caduceus
Yeah.
were just all
Uh,
just so intriguing to me.
Yeah. Now Kiri, all of
Oh,
Kiri.
Kiri! I forgot about Kiri.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like she was like one liability in like a string of liabilities that they just kept
Yeah.
taking on and taking on. There was
Yeah.
like wasn't there another kid that they like pseudo adopted? Didn't
Yeah,
they
'cause
adopt like a
they
gnome
adopted.
girl or something?
Yeah, because I think they're in some town and the kids are like staying by themselves because their parents are in jail.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then they end up resolving that all in one
Mm-hmm.
because when they save the parents of those kids, they also tell the parents like, "Hey, like we kind of saved you.
You have to take this
Uh,
thing now.
you have to take this bird."
Yeah, this bird person that doesn't talk. She
Yeah.
can only mimic voices.
You're about to have the most annoying 10 years of your life.
Yeah.
But all of Kiri,
Yeah.
I would have loved to. I know there was a lot of stuff going on at the end of the campaign. They were trying to wrap things up.
Hmm.
I would have loved to have seen something Kiri related towards
Yeah.
the end of the season.
Yeah.
But there were so many things to do.
Yeah. I had thought
Uh,
that too. Like, I want to see what Kiri's doing also. But
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
there was, yeah, like you said, there were so many cogs turning in that machine that I think campaign 2 got like so big really quick that it was just like hard for Matt to manage at some
Well,
point.
yeah, and this they had that break for so long,
Mhm.
and like some of that stuff in the beginning, like they're trying to still connect back to, and
Mhm. Mhm.
it's hard.
Yeah.
So I want to get on to season 3 as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you have that you don't want to leave without saying?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I will say that my overall experience of campaign 2 was lesser than campaign 1 because of the quickened and
Yeah.
um, shortened manner in which I partook. But that being said, it really has just set me up to enjoy campaign 3 uh, in ways that I haven't ever like enjoyed Critical Role. It feels having moving on to campaign 3 now. It's like being caught up, with the exception of tonight. I'm still not going to let that go. Like
Hey
it
man,
feels.
you were the one. You were the one that made the availability.
I know. I know. It's my own stupid fault. It feels so like cool that I'm like finally caught up to this thing that I feel like I've just been catching up on for forever. And now I'm finally caught up. I'm like one of the cool kids now. I'm like I know everything, and it's like especially cool when I tune in on Thursday nights thinking that these people that I love, except for they're not actually playing on Thursday nights. They pre-record everything still, don't they?
Yeah, they still pre-record, but
Ah,
we
they
can
pre-record. Oh,
we
I
can
I
think
mean
that
I
they
can
pre-record.
pretend. I pretend that they're
Yeah,
2 states over actually playing
and I can
together.
and I can totally respect that live streaming every Thursday night with how busy they are
Mm.
was just a unsustainable
Yeah, absolutely.
mental thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it feels like an accomplishment.
Hmm.
It's a weird exclusivity thing, but it does feel cool that like the barrier of entry, depending on how far, like they make it more accessible if you want to read like the recaps and
Hmm. Hmm.
the recap videos and all that. But once you get through all that and you watched, I think you watched more than you didn't watch.
Yeah, counting campaign
Between
1 and 2. Yeah,
yeah, kind of
yeah, I
yeah.
for sure watched more than I didn't.
So getting past all that and then being caught up, like you do feel like yeah, like I've earned something.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely I do. That's part of the cool part is like I started at the beginning and where I could have in fact I remember texting you like when I started listening to Critical Role. I was like kind of on the fence like I'll just start with campaign 2 and like try to catch up to where they are. But then I decided because Joe Manganiello was in the first campaign, I would start with the first one and then go all the way through. And
An interesting excuse, but hey, it works out.
yeah, because really, it was Joe's interview that I saw on YouTube forever ago that got me into Critical Role, that got me to
Yeah,
want to watch it. So that was the whole reason I even started. But
because you were perfectly content watching your drunken
Drunks and
dragons,
Dragons, yeah, I was, yeah,
drunks and dragons.
yeah,
I was trying to get you into
working on that.
Critical Role for the longest time, and you're like,
Yeah,
nope, I got my
yeah.
thing. Which there's no problem with that.
Oh,
There's an
yeah, for
audience.
sure.
There's communities out there for everybody.
Mhm,
Not
mhm.
everybody likes Critical Role, and that's why there's so many others out there. And
Yeah. Mhm.
I think just personally, like I haven't gotten into a ton of them, and I think that's more of a time thing than anything else.
Right. Right.
But if I was younger, I'm thinking of all the different content that I found when I was in middle school or something, and I still watch those same people just because that's who I found.
Mhm.
Like I'm not really in a place that I can go about just finding new creators all the time like I
Yeah.
used to be able to.
Yeah.
But if I was that age, like there's so much that I would just love keeping track of, and like all the different personalities out there. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, there's a ton of stuff out there. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Joe Manganiello is an awesome guy.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. He and Travis are my boyfriends. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, like that's finishing campaign 2 and like rushing through it even like it's really set me up to just like I feel like fully like absolutely fully enjoy campaign 3 and I am. It's fantastic. Already I love Imogen and
Yeah.
Dorian, which that's a cool. That was like a really cool thing. I thought that the little side story that you and I didn't really care to watch was like brought
Oh
into
yeah,
this
yeah.
immediately, and so both of us like jumped and
Oh
like watched it
yeah.
as soon as we could.
Yeah. I think I was telling you like nothing can make me watch Exandria
Yeah,
Unlimited.
yeah, and I
And
agreed with
then
you. I was like, yeah, I don't really care about it.
season 3 starts, and I was like, gosh dang it.
Crap. Yeah.
So I had a note on here. Robbie,
Yes.
especially, I haven't finished episode 4
Mhm.
yet.
Mhm.
Robbie might be my favorite player right
Yeah.
now.
He's so good, right? I
He's
love
so good.
Robbie.
In episode 4, he was killing it.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So did you see the part where Dorian picks up Laudna and they like fly to the roof?
I don't know if I've gotten to that part yet.
I think that was in episode 3.
Oh, maybe I missed it.
I know you
My
don't
like
like fully
my
watch
inability
it. I
to
know. I
yeah, my inability to I just fall asleep.
know. Yeah. Same. Yeah.
But I'll have to go back and watch that, especially if
Mhm.
it's something to note for Dorian. Yeah,
It's hilarious. It's not a serious moment. It's just hilarious. So Laudna
yeah,
is like, well, let's go through the cast and characters real quick before I start
yeah.
gushing
Okay,
about this.
so do you have them up? Do you want to go through them?
I can
I have
yeah,
them
I'll
up on
rattle
my
them
end.
off the top of my head. So you got Dorian Storm, played by Robbie Damon, who
Mm-hmm.
I actually knew before he appeared as the voice of Prompto Argentum in Final Fantasy 15.
Of course,
Nod to my favorite game of all time.
of freaking course you did.
Of course, he's awesome. He did a fantastic job in that game. Like, I still think you should play through at least the story of that game. It's amazing. It's
Final Fantasy 15, you said?
yeah. Outside of like Critical
Such a
Role,
long game.
outside of Critical Role is my favorite story that I've ever consumed.
Jeez.
True story.
Why can't the favorite story you consume be like a nice like 20-hour like side scroller game? Why can't that be the case, Brian?
I just have I have a more refined palate
Okay,
for
all right,
stories.
moving on.
Um,
So you got Robbie.
Robbie plays Dorian Storm. He's a Air Genasi bard. Awesome character. I love him. And then next to him is Marisha playing Laudna, the
Mm-hmm.
unknown race warlock.
Yeah, true.
She's like voodoo gothic, like real creepy stringy long hair, like gray skin, all black eyes, just real terrifying. Just terrifying.
Apparently, she is a hollow one. That's her race.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that came out with the Reborn and the Dampier.
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I hadn't heard the word before. I haven't
Okay.
done the best job at keeping track of some of the new stuff.
No, I think that's an Unearthed Arcana race, if I
Gotcha.
remember right, because I don't think it came out in Tasha's. Anyway,
And it could be like Matt happily throws homebrew stuff in that
Oh, yeah.
him and the players do.
yeah, he writes a lot of it too, and they use his homebrew stuff. Like Travis's Paladin subclass in Campaign 2 was homebrew.
Yeah.
Molly Mock's whole class was the Blood Hunter class that Matt wrote.
Yeah, that's in D&D Beyond now.
Yeah,
It has its own little like.
yeah.
There's a little line, and then there's like the Blood Hunter is
Yeah.
in its own little section on the
Yeah,
classes
yeah.
on D&D Beyond.
All of the subclasses from Campaign 1 and 2 are on D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
And then So we got Sam Riegel playing Fresh Cut Grass. It's
Oh
the
my
name of this
goodness.
little Warforged cleric, which I'm
Real quick,
convinced.
that scene where he's talking about his like the other
Oh
like the
yeah, let's
other
talk about it. Let's
beings.
talk about it right now because it like already funniest moment in the campaign.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like I about fell out of my chair laughing. It was
I
and like
I
watching.
was
Oh,
crying. Yeah.
this was like the first moment of me like just like pure like absorbing all of the goodness of
Yeah.
like because I haven't watched any episodes. I've only
Mhm.
listened to the podcast. But
Yeah.
like this was the first episode of campaign 3 and I'm watching it live, quote unquote live.
Yeah.
And I just watched like the waves of hilarity just like washing through
Oh yeah.
Travis and Marisha and Laura and everybody just cracking up like over and over again about it and then like coming back into character and then like cracking out of character again. Just hilarious. So Fresh Cut Grass is a Warforged, which is like it's like a fantasy robot class in D&D, and he's a cleric. And so, which I think his subclass is a special homebrew class, but I can't
Yeah.
confirm
So
it.
he's an automat. He's an automaton.
Automaton,
That's a automaton. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
automaton,
They may have.
whatever.
Yeah.
So he's talking about how he got his name, and I'll let you go ahead and say the rest of it since you brought it up.
Yeah. Well, that's cheating. But his name is obviously very peculiar, and when they, you know me, like I halfway through episode 1, and I'm already like starting to do something while I'm listening to it, and so
Yeah.
I look over at the screen and I see FCC on like the little banner of his character. I'm like, what the heck is that? So
Yeah.
I back up, 30 seconds for him to say his name. His name is Fresh Cut Grass.
Yeah.
Like, Sam, you. And so later in the episode, he's talking about it. I'm not. I don't feel comfortable saying the word on the podcast. I'm just gonna accept the place I'm in. But people ask him like what it comes up like the names of his other automatons that were built with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he just starts going through just like the randomest of names, and it's really like all I can do is just recommend that you go watch the scene.
I'll say it. I'll say it if
I'll,
you don't, because I think it's
okay,
hilarious.
all right, yeah, you go through it then.
So he explains that his creator named all of their creations after their favorite smells, and so there's fresh cut grass, there's oatmeal, and then
He says like 6 names, and
There's
then
like a bunch.
he
the last one is he says pussy, and then like everybody like double takes, and then like Travis breaks, Marisha breaks, everybody's just cracking up. I'm like falling off my chair laughing. Everybody is just roaring in laughter, and Matt is just like dying, shaking his head, just like hands completely in his or face completely in his hands, just beside himself, and it was just the best moment. And
oh
it was just talking about it it gets me giggling, man. It's so freaking funny because he says it so nonchalantly too, just like rolls right.
well
right
that was
over
the
it.
whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I think he may have even said like one or something after it. Like it was
Yeah.
just he just put it in there.
Yeah.
And I'm so Sam is a genius. Comedic genius.
Just comedy gold right there. That's why he has an Emmy.
I think I'm going to combat you on if that's the funniest scene or not. But the one that I have is just stupid, and I laughed about it way too hard for way too long.
Mm.
But yeah, so we're not even done going through the cast. You've got Robbie, Marisha, and Sam so far.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see, bottom left is Ashley. Ashley's playing Fern from EXU, and I love Fern. I love how sweet and horrible she is. She's like always stealing things, but she's just so very sweet, and she likes everybody, and she wants everybody to be happy, but she steals everything. And she is not afraid of committing crimes, and it's such a good combination.
And she's generally like super weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just off the wall. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe I'll give this description and you can think of somebody that maybe this relates to, but just the person that you interact, like you speak to, and within several seconds they just make you severely uncomfortable with the questions that they ask.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like
and
way
they are
too
totally
personal.
okay with
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. Like the immediately way too personal, and they're being completely nonchalant about it.
Yeah.
And that's Fern.
Yeah, definitely. Good. Yeah, very good description. And then
We got Liam.
Liam's playing Orem, also from EXU. In the runnings for my favorite character. He's a halfling fighter, which is the second to smallest race in the game. He stands at a 3'3", but he's like the meat shield for the party. He's always on the front line. He's always trying to protect everybody in the party. And I love it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. And he's just like, he comes from Keyleth's like tribe of people, and he's just real empathetic and caring. And
Also, arguably the least traumatized character that Liam has played.
oh yeah, yeah. I was actually hoping for Liam to play someone like a lot more upbeat, and Orem's not upbeat, but he's definitely
not
not.
downbeat.
He's not downbeat.
He's not. He's not
compared
scarred.
to compared to Vax and Caleb. Orem is considered upbeat, you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like he plays a certain type of character, and certainly when he gets the choice, I was going to be very surprised if he just walked in with a character like something like Sam has done in the past.
Yeah, I really wanted him to play
just,
something close to Jester or something, just like
yeah,
off, like way out there, but
just way off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was going to be very surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
We have Taliesin.
Taliesin plays Ashton, which I love Ashton. Like every other word he says is the F word. But I love him anyway. He's he's a Earth Genasi barbarian.
Yeah, something like that. Also, there's some homebrew stuff in there.
His subclass is homebrew, and I'm super stoked for that to drop on D&D Beyond, because
his
like
stuff
really,
and Sam's stuff. Yeah. I'm excited to see that homebrew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just they've only been in like 2-3 combats, but the few times that they've been in combat, Ashton's stuff has been like mechanically awesome. Like way cooler than anybody else's, for sure.
I like the sorry, I just have to mention I have the wiki pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Critical Role season 3, and it says the running time is between 1 to 4 hours. It's quite a it's quite an exact variety of duration.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, we have one more person. We have Travis.
We got 2 more people because we didn't talk about Laura.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk. We mentioned the name, but we didn't talk about it. Mm-hmm. So we have Laura and we have Travis.
Yeah. So Travis's character, it was actually from the Searching for Grog one shot. Bertrand Bell, and he's like this super old human fighter, and I really like him. His scene with Dorian, right before he gets offed. Yeah. That was a really cool scene, I thought, between him and Dorian.
Bertrand was one of my favorite. Like Bertrand was number one
really?
As far as my favorite character. Like every time Travis talked as Bertrand.
Yeah.
And his whole interaction when he's in the bar and he's trying to be like Sleuth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm in character. And
yes. Yeah.
Like it was so good.
Travis just pulled that off so well. Just the old the old dementia dude. It was so good. And the time when Orem like knocked on his door in the hotel, and, they're like talking, and like it's just Bertrand's face like poking out the crack of the door, and like Orem starts talking, and then Travis just like closes his eyes and like drops his head a little bit, and then like Orem like stops talking, and then he's like, hey, wake up. What? Yes, yes, all right, yeah, just perfect. Well said. This is great.
Exactly. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, just
I love it.
yeah, I agree with you. Bertrand he's actually tied for my favorite character.
Yeah.
My actual favorite character is Laura. Her character's name is Imogen, and she's a human sorcerer, and I think she has a homebrew sorcerer subclass because it doesn't quite match anything that's been published. It's close to the aberrant mind with like the psionic, like psychic powers, but
Yeah.
she's doing stuff that the aberrant mind can't do. I don't think.
Dude, I love the Critical Role wiki. Sorry, I'm just clicking on. I'm cheating.
Wow.
Whenever somebody says, "Here's me," correct Bryan, it's because I'm literally looking at the page.
I'm going off like the top. Of
You
my
know,
head,
you're
okay?
you are
Right.
raw. Just what's it called?
Real.
Recollection.
Yeah. Memory. Recall. Yeah.
Recall. Open mind is the homebrewed ability.
Mm.
If that's the one that you mentioned.
Yes. She can just like read thoughts like in a room.
Yeah. I love it.
She's just like this real timid, like southern gal, and she's got that southern drawl that's just for some reason really attractive to me. And she's got like anime pink hair, which I've been asking Maddie to dye her hair pink for years. And she got some pink highlights a while back, and that was really special. Anyway, off topic.
There you go.
But yeah, she's just like this real timid, but like super passive aggressive, like deep southern lady. She's like really polite and timid at first, but then like the second you make her mad, she gets like super passive aggressive and like makes these offhand comments, and I love it. The scene with her and Bertrand while they were searching for that person in the tavern. Do you remember that?
The one more time.
So they're chasing that halfling lady, I believe.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
they track
like, that's
her.
when like Bertrand's doing his whole thing.
Yeah. The in character thing. Yeah. They track her to this tavern, and they like go in and they see her at this booth, but then she's like gone from the booth in the tavern, and they're Bertrand's like, well, let's just go like pretend we're sitting down, and if she's invisible, maybe she'll go.
You are,
ooh. And like that little ooh
you are
noise.
you're about to I think you're about to quote my funniest moment.
Like Laura, like she tries to talk, she says like 2 words, and then just like her face hits the desk because she's laughing so hard at Travis's little noise that he does.
Yeah.
It was so good, and I love whenever like Travis and Laura interact because I love them.
Yeah, and they're for somebody that they're married, out of game, and they have a kid. 1 or 2? They have more than 1?
At least 1. I only know of the one.
Yeah, so they're married, and so their interactions are always just like, it's just fun to watch them.
Yeah, but yeah, just like them, like I love it when Travis makes Laura laugh, and she laughed so hard at this. It took her quite a minute to get back into character. But then this might be the thing that you were talking about. She's like, her counter proposal is like, okay, we'll like walk over there and we'll just like swing our arms real wide when we walk over there.
Yeah, because they're thinking that maybe she's invisible, the woman that they're going after.
Yeah.
And the way that she said it, you have to, again, we can't describe it to you.
Yeah,
you have to
just
go
gotta go watch it.
Because it wasn't what she said, it was how how she got it across, because it was so stupid and she understood it, and it was just funny because she had such a hard time getting it out.
Yeah, because she's still trying to like collect herself after Travis made her laugh so hard.
Because I think a combination of like she knows what she's about to say, and Travis just did this thing, so she fails once, and then she tries again, and then she fails again. And then she, for the 3rd time, she like is laughing, but she pushes through it. And Bertrand's like, well, maybe we'll just like sit down and we'll like do this thing. And Laura's like, well, when we go over there, maybe we can swing our. She says it in this weird, because she's like trying not to laugh.
Yeah.
Swing our arms a bit.
Yes.
And I like the situation was perfect for me. I was standing at my kitchen counter, eating. I think I was eating food, and I had just the day prior I had just done a really big core workout.
Mm-hmm.
So my stomach hurts.
Yeah.
And I have like it was a whole 10-minute, because I kept my personality, I kept rewinding it and I kept watching it. My jaw hurt. I couldn't stop, like, just wide open, just gasping for air, laughing. My stomach hurt. That whole thing. That was my favorite. That was my favorite moment so far. I freaked out. I couldn't breathe after that.
Yeah, it was so good. Just classic.
So the story so far. I mean, first off, how do you feel about it? I mean, are you following it? Like, are you having an easy time following it? Are you liking it so far?
Yeah. I'm like super excited about it. I'm really excited about this city they're in. It's a really interesting city with like the different spires that they go to and like the different areas of the city. It feels like, in contrast to the first two campaigns, this city feels a lot more lived in to me. Because of the variety of locales within the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the already they've met like 2 or 3 different like factions and like heard of at least 1 or 2 more other like factions within the city. And Ashton's backstory is played into some of that. Bertrand's backstory played into some of it.
So if you because again you've been paying more like attentive attention to the episodes, do you recall any mention of them even talking about anything outside of the city yet, or has it all been confined isn't really even the right word, but just enclosed within the big city as far as all of their discussions and their plots and their objectives?
Well, Imogen and Laudna are from outside of the city. Laudna's actually from Whitestone, which has like huge implications for her class and subclass.
I'm super excited
because she's like an undead-ish type like race, and her warlock subclass is this undead type thing. And I mean, campaign 1, some of the biggest villains of campaign 1 were undead people from Whitestone. So that has like massive implications to be connected back to campaign 1.
It was hilarious to watch,
which I'm super excited for.
When they were talking about Whitestone and the first opportunity that came that one of the players could ask her about it. I was just watching this like mental and almost like battle of eyes of like Matt and the players kept giving looks to each other as they were asking questions of like they were asking quite like the mental battle of like, is this question realistic to ask?
Yeah.
And how many of the like how long does it go until these are just straight like there's no reasons that the character would be interested enough, and it's just like meta questions that the players want to know because they want to know.
They want to know the lore. Yeah,
so
I think Sam was like the biggest culprit of that.
Oh yeah, and so you just like when you watch the scene, they like ask a question and then you see them like they're like kind of side eyeing Matt to see his reaction to it.
Yeah, I remember that very clearly. Also,
I loved it because it's like, again, as the DM, like I know very clearly like that, like like I always like players always want to know more info and I never want to give it to them.
Definitely.
Another fantastic scene, and I'm super pumped to see like how that unfolds and like the little bits of info that we get over time. I want to know more.
Yeah, for sure.
It's I'm enjoying the story a lot. I think it is like, so I think season 1 we weren't with Vox Machina in the beginning.
Right.
they had already been playing as a group,
Mm-hmm.
and their story had been going for a year at the minimum,
Mm-hmm.
maybe more than a year. So we were catching them in the middle. Season 2 was more of a like tavern, and then you meet a person, and they give
Mm-hmm.
you some tasks, and then you go to bigger and bigger things.
Yeah.
Um, and this one is definitely like, I don't know. In a way, it kind of gives me comfort
Mm-hmm.
because it does seem much more like a, well, in some ways stereotypical, and in some ways not, because they do, they kind of basically met in a tavern,
Mm-hmm.
and then with Bertrand
Yes.
with Bertrand Bell and that first fight,
Mm-hmm.
they did kind of get thrown together,
Mm-hmm.
and then Bertrand's like, "Hey, I have work for you. Come with me."
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool way to meet up because they it was kind of like an alignment of stars, like these destinies just kind of like literally crossed the street at the same time as this event
Yeah,
happened, and like they just got kind of pulled in by Bertrand. I thought that was a really cool thing.
and it also, I'm always so stressed as like the DM of like when getting characters to meet and like how do I get them to care for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also a reminder to me that like players can also be very like the players obviously they did a lot to like progress
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the willingness to stay with each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously it's really cool with in season 2 or 3, since we got to see it from the beginning, um watching the different like Laura and Marisha's characters
Mm-hmm.
knew each other beforehand.
Yeah.
Sam and Talison's characters knew each other beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was it, the other three?
Yeah.
The EXU
Robbie,
characters.
Liam, and Ashley's characters. Yeah, they all knew each other because they came from EXU.
So that's just
Mm-hmm.
that was really cool as well because there's already we got to see that a little bit with Caleb and
Caleb and
Not the Brave,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in season 2, and that was always such a cool thing because there was the relationship development in the group, but then there was also this already kind of developed thing that you got to see,
Yeah.
and now with this one, like it's present everywhere.
Yeah, there's a lot more of it. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like
And so,
I I'm already I already like this group better than the Mighty Nine
mm,
at that point because it was like Caleb and Not were like always kind of scheming to get away at the first opportune moment,
yeah,
and like there was several side conversations that was like, well, I don't owe you anything. I think Bo was a big problem in that area too. Like, well, I don't owe you anything. Maybe I'll just leave.
yeah,
Which is like compelling storytelling, like the inner group struggle. But like for a D&D game, it's not very fun if your characters aren't getting along. And as a player in your campaign, like my character didn't get along with Tanner's first character, and I was like, why am I doing that though? Like that's not fun. Like it's not very fun to not get along, and so I had issues with them at the beginning.
it's definitely a fine line of like like you want it to be dynamic and you want the
Mm-hmm.
option of like Sam let his character in season 1 leave the campaign
Yeah,
for a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
But it's such a fine line, and you want to make sure like you're not taking the fun away or
Mm-hmm.
like lording this like, oh, I'm just gonna have my character leave,
Right, right.
or something like that. And so they made it they made it they made it work, and obviously in the end it made it nice to kind of think back on that, like, oh, it seemed ready to break at a moment's notice,
Yeah.
but the mighty nine ended up going and doing this cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it was hard to. There were some episodes where it was just hard to watch because you're just like, bah, like, yeah, it was just kind of a headache to watch
Yeah.
some episodes.
Yeah, and I mean, I knew like they wouldn't break up because I knew that I was watching a game of D&D, and they were all best friends in real life, so I knew that it wasn't gonna come to that. It was just a little like clunky and awkward, I thought. And the new group, they haven't named themselves yet, but the new group, I think is bypassing a lot of that, which I like. I like a lot.
Well, I think the way their characters were set up, and I think everything is just lending itself to like Bertrand Bell was initially like offering them, whether or not he was being truthful about his connections,
Mm-hmm.
was offering Laudna and Imogen, kind of access to the thing that they wanted, which was a connection to, I think, the college or something like that.
Yeah.
And there were different things like that where there was an immediate like, hey, look at all these reasons that we value each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then now, like, so quickly, like they've already signed a contract. They've already kind of signed like an employment thing with this orc.
Yeah.
And so, a couple of episodes in, and they're already kind of a group doing their thing, and they're kind of ready and rearing to go.
Yeah.
And so that's just kind of fun to watch. But it's always nice for me to, it's stressful for me to start campaigns like that. And so it's always good to watch how somebody else starts a campaign off.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
And how the players lend themselves to it, and what the DM does, and the different situations and stuff, and that, yes, it's okay to do, as far as situationally, it's okay to do the tavern, or somebody offers you employment, and Matt did that. There was like maybe just like one or two things that made it unique, but because of those things, it really did feel unique.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, the tropes were there pretty obviously, but they were led there. You got to see like a little bit of the before they got to the tavern, which I think was really the only real like unique thing, was that you got to see like a little bit of their life before the tavern. And then when they got to the tavern, the thing happened, and then they went to their employer.
Yeah. So I thought it was good. I really, one of the only things I had was just that Laura's whole like we'll swing our arms around thing. We're only a couple episodes in. I'm enjoying it so far.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving all the characters. And I think this is the first time where I have like genuinely loved all of the characters. As I mentioned before,
so I wanted to mention.
I hated Bo, and I didn't love some of the other characters from Vox Machina, but I love every character here.
So Bertrand Bell's dead.
Rip. I'm very sad about that, but I kind of knew it was going to happen.
It seemed very much like
he was a placeholder character for Travis before his real character came in.
Yeah, whatever the situation was, he wanted, like, him and Matt were on the same page that character was going to die.
Yeah.
Whatever the reason was for it, it definitely seemed like Matt was like, I've done this with some players before where they're like, I want my character to do this. I'm like, okay. And so, like, in the middle of the session, I'm like, hey, if you would still like your character to die, go ahead and take a walk in the alley.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it seemed very much like Bertrand Bell wanted to go take a walk so that he could die.
Yeah.
That's that's the vibe I got.
Yeah, I agree.
But I didn't have any problem with it.
I kind of got the feeling that Travis's character, the one that he really wants to play, is like connected to somebody else that they wouldn't meet for the first little bit. I actually suspect,
like a little later. Oh, yeah. Do you have a suspicion already?
Yeah, I suspect that Travis's new character is somebody involved in Ashton's past, because Ashton had a bunch of NPCs thrown in his direction, like a lot of connections he knew. So I was actually waiting the last week for them to go meet one of these people that Ashton knew, and then Travis to come back on and start describing his character. And that never happened.
So for now, Bertrand's dead.
Yeah. Rip.
My favorite character right now is Laudna.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I love Laudna. I really do. And it feels good to love a character that Marissa plays, really.
Yeah. Like she's just doing she's played the characters that she intended to play the way that she intended to play them in the last ones, but they were edgy for different reasons.
Yeah.
Laudna's edgy in like such a satisfying way though this time.
In a comedic way.
In a comedic way, not like uncomfortable.
right. It's like a caricature of an edgelord in a funny way, and I'm
Yeah.
digging it a lot. Like that scene I was
I'm
telling you about with Dorian and Laudna.
yeah.
Dorian picks up Laudna and they fly up to the top of this roof, and she's like this really spindly, like malnourished, like lanky, bony figure, and she says she like skitters up into his arms, and Dorian goes like, like, like it offends Laudna a little bit, and it was such a funny like little tiny interaction. It was so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
So I'm
really love
super excited
Laudna.
for that. I think it's amazing. It seems like she like found she was on this may have been when she was on the roof, but she found like this box or this pouch
Oh
that was just
yeah,
completely
yeah,
covered in bird poop and just
yeah,
feces and all that.
and like
And what she
mold
do?
and
Like she licked
roasted.
it,
Yeah, it
or
was like
she
this
like
super moldy
immediately
thing,
she like
and she
and
did
she
lick
immediately
it.
she's like, I grab it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just nasty. She's got
And her
that.
face, like everybody else is grossed out into it, and her as a player, she's like fully into the character, and she's like, "No,
Yeah,
I'm down."
yeah.
And
Oh,
so
and her
I'm super
message
excited about
scene,
that.
her message to Orim,
Oh,
that was
yeah,
like not even her choice, but everybody else's at the table was on freaking point with that.
yeah,
She like starts sending this like message to Orim. He's in a pitch black warehouse, and she's like hyper creepy and gross and like just terrifying to behold. And so she starts like casting the spell and sending this message right to Orim. And she starts like whispering, and then Travis immediately starts echoing her in a voice like this, like a really demonic voice. And then
yeah,
everybody else, like Laura and everybody else, like starts whispering, like really menacingly, like echoing what she's saying in like waves of echoes. And it's like it was such a perfect moment of like a whole table of friends like coming together as like on cue. It was a
yeah. It
great.
was.
I loved that. That's one that I've watched a couple times since because it was so good. And Liam like plays this tiny little halfling, and he's like, I was doing okay.
And Ashley's character, she's just being weird
Yeah.
but casual about it, and so
Uh-huh.
she goes and bangs on the door and scratches on the door.
Yeah, it's just like banging on the door, and Orm's hearing like this super demonic, terrifying voice in his head.
Yeah.
It's just like it all comes together in such a good way.
Liam tried to make an unscarred character, and then the group just ruined it for him.
He ruined it for him. Yeah. Oh, it's true. Oh, so good.
We got to wrap it up because I've broken my promise again on the length of this episode.
I know, we did it again.
But is there anything else about Campaign 3 that you wanted to mention before we wrap up? I mean,
Yes.
we're gonna talk about it years from now when they wrap it up again. But but at the
Years.
beginning, is there anything you want to get out?
Yes. So far, I'm very impressed with the storytelling on mainly Matt's part, but it's the storytelling devices that he uses employs all of the characters at the table.
Yeah.
Like my favorite thing is the way they go about talking about the city. It's as if like Ashton Talison's character has lived there for a long time. And it's
Yeah.
like it's as if Imogen and Laudna have been in town for a while trying to get into this college, and they kind of know the town. And they like in the group just are talking about the city and like things about the city. And the NPCs that Matt plays, they're just like conversing naturally about the things that are going on. And it's just a really cool, natural way to like introduce the lore of the world, and that's something that I've noticed and I really like, and it's actually it goes back to this anime that I've been watching called Cowboy Bebop, and it's very much the same way. Like you just get dumped into this story, like seemingly in the middle of the story that's already been going on with these characters that already have relationships and have already been around the city or the whatever, the in canon world, and they're just like talking about the world, but and it's like and it's up to you the viewer to like read between the lines, pick up the little nuances and like piece it together on your own.
Yeah.
Which is a super, super satisfying way to experience a story, I think. And so I'm super excited to keep going on that. Like you said, just inspired by Matt and the whole crew in their talents of storytelling, and yeah, just super, 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 super happy to be part of the Cool Kids Club.
I like it. I have to mention the orc and him baking a cake.
Oh, that was such a good scene, yes. And Imogen was
Freaking
like, Imogen hated it, but she was still trying to be polite about it.
yeah, but just like the players' faces, it was such a D&D moment when this big old like orc, and he's like, and I made a cake, and Laura's face is like, what the hell?
Yes.
And then like a second passes, and she's 120% down for it.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, in character. Yeah, she like snaps back into character, and she's like just being so polite about it, even though it's terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
I just thought that was hilarious, and that was like this is what D&D is.
Yeah.
You think that you're doing these amazing epic things, and really you're fictionally role playing eating a cake that doesn't taste good.
Yeah. Like what the
for
heck?
an orc.
Yeah. It's yes.
So
Have you seen the part where Fern goes through Bertrand's pockets after he dies?
oh my goodness. I saw like Liam, so you guys were talking about that in the Discord before I'd even gotten to that point, but and so I thought Matt was the one that had to call it off, but I saw when I was watching it, it was Liam that had to like say it. He's like, Travis, you have to stop.
Because he just like, so what happened is like Bertrand's dead, they recover his body, and Fern, the kleptomaniac, is just like going through his pockets and taking stuff out. And so Matt was like, okay, you go through his pockets and we'll have Travis text you what you find. And so like a couple minutes later, she starts reading these texts that just keep coming in. And she finds a 30-year-old condom, a copy of Reader's Digest or TV Guide. It was like TV Guide or something. And some old like Linty Werther's Originals.
Just complete nostalgic old guy.
Yeah, just like the things that a guy who's not ready to be an old guy yet would have, but also like is really old and like reads TV Guide and stuff. It was, like there was Liam and I think Matt was even like yelling at Travis too, like stop interrupting my game.
Oh my goodness,
because it was very disruptive. It was
I loved it though, because like Marisha couldn't get enough of it. Marisha had her eyes glued to her phone. Some people were like on different levels of trying to pay attention, and Marisha was just like, "Nope, this is my
I'm out.
This is the storyteller right now." I loved it. Okay, all right, we gotta stop.
All right.
Next time, we're gonna take a quick break from D&D. Initially, I was thinking that we might talk about some of the new book releases on the next upload.
I'm really excited.
But I realized that would, based on the date, we would be reading, recording, and editing the episode all in one day, because I think the day that the day of the upload is the day that Haven releases. So we're not doing it. So.
Yeah, we ain't about that.
So we're just gonna nothing D&D related. We're just gonna be a lot of stuff has happened for both Bryan and myself, and so we're just gonna quickly kind of catch up on that. And I mentioned it a couple times, kind of with my move and everything. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And then yeah, after that, then we'll dive right back into D&D.
Just
Straight
straight
back in.
back. We can't get
Yeah,
enough.
sorry guys. You can tell I think I've just this is me being like mentally going through withdrawals because I haven't been playing or running a lot of D&D in the last couple weeks.
Hmm.
So I think we're just feeling the effects right now. So
Yeah,
so
that's
if
right.
you've listened this long, wow. But thank you.
Thank you. And as always, don't believe anything we
Thanks guys.
say. Go watch Critical Role.
Indeed. Thanks guys.